The Qur'an functions as a massive, scale-free topological network. Built from hundreds of thousands of unique links, the text operates as a coherent circuit board mapping an operational architecture. This phase-space plot illustrates the core operating system of this network, the dual caustic universe, or DCU. The text behaves like a closed information energy return system, governed by the 2260 cubic function. It loops, processes variables, and stabilizes around a central axis. Within this architecture, structural nodes, the prophets, operate as mass energy states independent of biological lineage. They are mathematical constants, processing specific frequencies within the system's phase space. The system designates the reader as the active payload, an amnesic node wakened in the cave of verse 18-19. This node represents the Mursalin who have forgotten their origin and are now traversing an entropic loop. Navigating this topological path allows the reader to execute a system override. The objective is total mass energy stabilization, returning the amnesic node to its source code purity. The default failure state of this system is the tagut, a 236 entropic loop. In this mode, the system bleeds energy through a reliance on second-hand knowledge and false authority. Failing to input the correct operational code binds the reader to this decay. The mass of the ego creates friction, tethering the node to a state of continuous information loss. The exit protocol requires a specific computational flow: purge the tagut illusion, conserve the total mass of the system, and execute the precise code to break the loop. This process replaces the dead mass of the ego with purified data. By aligning with the system's laws, the reader stabilizes their own information state and prepares for transition. This horizontal balance scale, or Mīzān, demonstrates how the DCU reacts to critical anomalies. When the system detects a severe imbalance, like the 81-8 anomaly, it forcefully injects new mass parameters from verse 230 to level the thermodynamic line. Verse 2169 marks the ignition point for this new mass. The chaotic fire of Ibrāhīm collapses into a smooth, superconductive blue fluid, the raw state of the word before it is assigned a trajectory. This ignition triggers the 237 bifurcation. Pathway 2, the duality split, creates wave-particle separation. Pathway 3, the information buffer, consolidates pure mass into a cubic structure. Pathway 7 executes the return, ensuring data loops back to its origin without energy leakage. Every transformation within the system must process through these three operators. Successful completion prevents systemic collapse and allows the reader to advance through the phase space. The system breathes through the 57-4 pendulum. It is a continuous sine wave oscillation, alternating between phases of expansion and contraction. When the 2169 ignition halts entropic time, it creates a zero crossing, a vertical axis auditing all active variables simultaneously. This zero crossing forces an audit of all superimposed states. At the top node, Solomon's death in verse 34:14 represents the decay of outer material kingdom structures relying on external authority. Simultaneously, the bottom node activates. Mūsā's mountain experience in verse 7:143 demonstrates the internal state stabilizing as it aligns with the system's source code at that same zero point. This audit reveals the golden cow illusion of verse 2096 as the entropic residue. It is the interference pattern that traps nodes unable to process the simultaneity of the split. Navigating these superimposed wave states requires precise phase alignment. The system reveals its architecture only when the observer accounts for the simultaneity of these nodes. The dual caustic universe operates on a law of absolute conservation. Mass and energy cannot be lost. Every interaction must result in a net zero change to the system's books. To maintain this balance, the system performs a mass swap. It extracts the entropic dead mass of Pharaoh from the looping 236 state. This swap is a thermodynamic necessity. To fill the void left by the Pharaoh archetype, the system inserts the Idris state, a purified, truth-aligned mass, keeping the equation perfectly balanced. The boat functions as the origin computer, guiding this exchange across the wave, while the cave serves as the isolated potential well where these extracted variables are held. Salvation in this framework is a requirement of physics. The system must swap out its entropic nodes to prevent a total energy collapse of the circuit. At this juncture, the material kingdom is dead and the Taghut illusion is active. To prevent absorption into the entropy, the reader must execute an escape protocol. The override command is found in verse 19:12, hold the book with strength. This is the literal input required to shift the node's phase and begin the exit sequence. This command triggers the Yahya birth protocol. The node begins navigating precise frequencies, following a hexagonal path like the B of verse 1668 to bypass the system's resistive friction. Processing the duality split through the information buffer completes a full system rotation. This mathematical closure generates a terminal remainder, a +1 unit of purified mass, which the text labels Ahmed. This +1 output confirms the reader has successfully decoupled from biological entropy. The amnesiac node has been processed into a stabilized mathematical output. The system feeds this +1 mass directly into the final Talut and Jalut equation. This is the last filter required to finalize the stabilization. The result is the Dāwūd state, the highest level of stabilization possible within the dual caustic framework. At this thermodynamic ceiling, the rigid laws of nature break down. As a resonant wave passes through the node, solid iron and mountain rock soften, becoming as fluid as mercury. Kinetic force and uncalibrated energy have reached total coherence. The node has achieved absolute victory over the Taghut entropy. The journey of the amnesiac node is complete. It has transitioned from the amnesia of the cave through the filters of the split and executed the 1912 override. The final mechanism of the 237 loop is the 17-to-1 return. The stabilized mass energy node is returned to the source, collapsing the phase-space map back into a single singularity. Every variable is accounted for. The equation is sealed, and the Qur'anic chainmail is closed. No energy has been lost. The dual caustic engine is running. The architecture is waiting for its next operator. When will you input the 1912 command?